Corpus Christi is the feast of the body and blood of Christ. While Catholics around the world celebrate this mystery in their home churches, here in Jerusalem, this feast leads us back to the origin. We are now standing in the Jewish quarter, just a short walk from Mount Zion. And up on Mount Zion is the place where Jesus broke the bread, gave the cup to his disciples, and spoke the words that are repeated to this day in every Mass. This is my body, this is my blood. Come with me. We are now walking up from the Jewish quarter to Mount Zion, leaving the Old City through the Zion Gate and continuing to the Upper Room, which stands at the place where Jesus shared bread and wine with the apostles 2,000 years ago. We are starting at the Hurva Synagogue, one of the great landmarks of the Jewish quarter. Every step we take now brings us closer to the origin. We are not simply walking through Jerusalem. We are walking toward the place where Corpus Christi began. The preparation for that night, almost 2,000 years ago, begins with a precise instruction from Jesus. The Gospels tell us about an almost mysterious code. Jesus sent 2 disciples ahead. They were to look for a man carrying a jar of water. They were to follow this man. The man led them to a house with a large, prepared room upstairs. In the ancient Greek text of the Bible, there is a very specific word for this, anagaion. It means an upper room, a room above the ground floor. And that is still what we find on Mount Zion today. The place of the Last Supper is remembered in a room above. What happened there at the Last Supper, the night before Jesus was crucified? That night, Jesus celebrates the Passover meal with his apostles, the great Jewish meal that remembers Israel's liberation from Egypt. For the apostles, what happens next is probably hard to grasp. They are celebrating the holiest meal of their people. And then Jesus suddenly takes bread and the cup and connects this meal with himself, with his body, with his blood, with the covenant he will seal the next day on the cross. He takes the bread, he breaks it, he gives it to his disciples, and he does not say, "This reminds you of my body." He says, "This is my body." Then he takes the cup. He passes it to them and says, "This is my blood." And he gives the command that still lives on in every Mass today. Do this in memory of me. This is not a small addition to the Passover meal. Something completely new is happening here. Jesus places himself at the center of this holy meal. Here is the origin of what the Church celebrates in every Mass, and what she carries visibly into the streets on Corpus Christi: the body and blood of Christ. That is why our path does not only lead to an old room on Mount Zion. It leads to the place where Jesus gave the Church what still stands at the center of every Mass today, the Eucharist. But when we stand there, upstairs in a moment, are we really standing in the room where Jesus celebrated that meal with the apostles that night? The Romans destroyed Jerusalem in the year 70. They devastated the city, destroyed the temple, and changed Jerusalem forever. But one thing they did not destroy: the memory of the first Christians. The trace of the upper room remained anchored on Mount Zion, and the evidence begins early. Already in the 4th century, Christian sources point to this area on Mount Zion. Epiphanius, the bishop of Salamis, writes about a small church on Zion, at the place he connects with the upper room of the disciples. Almost at the same time, the pilgrim Egeria travels to Jerusalem. She describes worship services on Mount Zion. So Christians were not celebrating here only in the Middle Ages. Already in late antiquity, this place was a living place of worship. Soon after that, a large church was built here, Hagia Zion. Its ruins still lie today beneath the neighboring Catholic Dormition Abbey, which we will see shortly. This line continues into the Crusader period. Because the hall we enter today as the upper room dates in its core to the 12th century. It belongs to the building history of the Crusaders. But the Crusaders did not invent this place. They built their hall over a site that had already been venerated for centuries. For us, that means the hall is medieval, but the place beneath it is ancient. And in a moment, we will see how this ancient memory lives on in a room that itself is made of different layers. Behind the tree, you can already see Zion Gate, the gate through which we will leave the old city in a few moments. And soon after that, when we reach the upper room, you may expect a magnificent church, an altar, Christian images, a quiet atmosphere of prayer. But the room feels very different. It is simple, bright, and largely empty. Maybe you will immediately ask yourself, why is there no cross here? Why are there no Christian images at the place where the Eucharist began? The answer leads right into the reality of Jerusalem, which many visitors do not know. In the building where the upper room lies, on the upper floor, 3 religions come very close together. On the ground floor is an important Jewish holy site. Upstairs, Christians venerate the place of the Last Supper. And in the 16th century, under Ottoman rule, this hall was turned into a mosque. In the 20th century, the status changed again. Since 1948, the building has been administered by the State of Israel as a historical monument. And because this place is religiously very sensitive, the room remains largely without permanent Christian furnishings. For many Christians, that feels strange at first. But in Jerusalem, this kind of restraint is often the reason why such a sensitive place remains accessible at all to pilgrims from all over the world. The room is simple, but it is not lost. It is open. And on special feast days, Christian prayers also take place here. And when we enter the room in a minute, I will show you the details you would probably miss at first sight. Details that make the simple room much more powerful than it first appears. Here in front of us, we now see the Dormition Abbey, the large Catholic church right next to where we are going. This church is connected with a different tradition on Mount Zion, the Dormition of the Virgin Mary, the end of her earthly life, remembered by Christians as her falling asleep before she was taken into heaven. The Dormition Abbey is not the place we are entering today. Our destination is much simpler, and it is just nearby, the upper room. The entrance is just behind the small red vehicle, on the left side. We are here. Behind this entrance lies the destination of our journey. We have spoken about the destruction of Jerusalem, about the memory of the first Christians that survived that destruction, and about why this room looks so simple today. But now we leave the theory behind. Let's go up to the place where Jesus gave the church what remains at the center of every Mass to this day, the Eucharist. The sign next to the door says, Room of the Last Supper. Another old name for this place is the Cenacle. It comes from the Latin word for an upper dining room, and in Christian usage, it became the name for the room of the Last Supper itself. So when Christians speak about the Cenacle, they mean this place, the upper room on Mount Zion, connected with the meal Jesus shared with his apostles before the crucifixion. We are going into a medieval hall, built by the Crusaders, at the place where Christian tradition has venerated the Last Supper since the earliest centuries. This is it. Did you expect it to look like this? Bright walls, a lot of open space, no altar, no cross at the center. Nothing that immediately looks like a Christian holy place. But now I want to show you the details many visitors miss when they come here. The first thing I want to show you is the medieval structure of the room. The columns, with their carved tops, show the Gothic style of the Crusader period. Then look up to the ceiling. These ribs, these pointed forms, this whole shape of the hall, all of this belongs to the medieval form of the upper room. And there is something else here too, something invisible but remarkable. The plain walls have preserved signs of the people who came to this room centuries ago. On these walls, medieval pilgrims left traces. Graffiti, coats of arms, carved names. With the naked eye, you see nothing. But in 2025, an Israeli-Austrian research team used advanced digital imaging to make these hidden marks visible again. Now we move to the Ottoman period. Here you see a mihrab, a Muslim prayer niche. In the 16th century, under Ottoman rule, this room was turned into a mosque. The mihrab is still the clearest visible sign of that time. And then look at the windows. They also belong to the Ottoman period of the room. Next to them, on the blue tile, you see Arabic calligraphy. These details help explain why the upper room does not look like a normal church today. They are visible traces from the time when this hall was used as a Muslim place of prayer. Jerusalem has many places where different centuries stand very close together, but our focus here remains the same. This is the room Christians venerate as the place of the Last Supper. And even if they are not immediately visible, there are Christian signs in this room too. Here on the pedestal, you see a modern bronze tree. Do you see anything Christian in it? Because there is. It is an olive tree. That points toward Gethsemane, the place of Jesus' agony before the arrest. Below, you see wheat and a vine with grapes. The wheat points to the bread. The grapes point to the wine in the cup. Bread and wine, the signs Jesus took at the Last Supper. The bronze tree is a modern symbol in this room, but there is also a much older Christian image here, a medieval pelican carved in stone on the column. Before I came here and researched this place, I did not know that the pelican was a historical Christian symbol, and I have never seen visitors stop here for this detail. If you look carefully, you can see the pelican feeding its young from its own breast. In historical Christian symbolism, the pelican became an image of Christ. According to an old belief, The pelican wounded itself to feed its young with its own blood. Here, at the place of the Last Supper, that image points directly to the mystery of the Eucharist, Christ giving himself. This is my blood, not as writing on the wall, as an image in stone. Muslim and Christian signs in one room, different centuries, very close together. That is Jerusalem. And still, this room can change completely. Most of the time, the upper room looks simple and almost empty, as you see it here. But on certain occasions, Christian prayer takes place in this room. An altar is set up. Clergy and pilgrims gather. The empty hall becomes a place of worship. So the upper room is not permanently arranged like a church, but Christian prayer has not disappeared from it. And after seeing all of this, the empty room no longer feels empty. It carries the memory of the words spoken at the Last Supper. This is my body. This is my blood. For now, we leave the upper room. Before we finish, I go one level higher, to the roof directly above the upper room complex. And from there, if you ever come here, you have a beautiful view toward the Mount of Olives. We are back outside, here on the Mount Zion. What stays with me is the simplicity of the upper room. It's not a place of gold and great decoration. It is almost empty. And still, the simple room points to something at the center of the Mass, the Eucharist. Did the simplicity of the room surprise you? What do you think about it? Write it in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey of discovery, I would appreciate a like. And if you want to see more than the typical pilgrim in the future, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for walking with me here on Mount Zion today. My name is Norbert, and see you at the next Christian site in the Holy Land.